everybody. We're so excited today to be here to be talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We are ranking all 22 films. We've previously done this after Infinity War, is that right? Or after Black Panther? I can't
Yeah, it
remember.
was Black Panther, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I have my friend Reece is here to do this with me. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I also do videos on YouTube, although I don't really upload as much as I could. But yeah, I very much love the MCU, and I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so we just had Endgame come out, and so it's kind of the end of this chapter. I guess they say that Spider-Man Far From Home is going to be the true ending of this phase. And so, yeah, I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. I don't think any of their movies have been unwatchable, in my opinion. I think that they have all been, like, not all of them are fresh for me, but I don't think that any are a Superman 4 or a Batman and Robin kind of level, in my opinion.
No, yeah, I think all of them have. I mean, like some of them do come down to just like goofy CGI versus CGI, but that is still an enjoyable thing to watch. So
Yeah, I mean, some of them, the structure could be better, or the balance of humor to tension, whatever, doesn't quite work, or little things. But yeah, I don't think that any of them are awful. So it's a
yeah,
pretty impressive achievement that they managed to do with 22 movies.
yeah, definitely. I'm very sad to say goodbye to like this era of the MCU.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, and so let us know your rankings and in the comment section or on Twitter, and we'll definitely have some controversial stuff. But like I
Yeah.
said, at the very least, know that, and I don't think any of these movies are awful.
Yeah, and just remember, if you're looking at someone's ranking, even if it's not on this video, don't send them hate. If they like a certain film more than another film, then that's their opinion, and everyone has their own opinion.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. So, all right. Well, this is going to be fun. We're just going to go through them in chronological order and each give where they land in our ranking, and then we'll go over our full lists at the end. So it should be
yeah.
pretty fun. Okay. So, let's start with the original that is having its 11-year anniversary this year, the original Iron Man. I think this movie holds up really well. I think it's a really good origin story. I think we forget sometimes how smart Tony is and how kind of scrappy he is, especially in this. When he's in that cave, I think it really works. And, it was sort of our first evil man of business with Jeff Bridges in this. And that got a little tired after a while, but I think it works for this one. And I don't know, I just think it's really entertaining. And I have it at number 5.
Yeah, I'm pretty controversial on this one. Throughout the MCU, I think the way Tony Stark has developed does make me appreciate this film more. But I think as a film in itself, I don't think it's incredible. I don't think it's amazing. The I think the pacing is a little bit slow sometimes, and I think other than Tony himself, I don't think there's many memorable characters. And I think the final fight is a bit just too. It's just I don't think it's an entertaining final fight really. So yeah, I'm a bit controversial when it comes to Iron Man, but I mean I do enjoy it more than when I first saw it. It has grown on me a little bit, but yeah, sadly I do have it number 19
Ah,
in my ranking. So
yeah,
yeah,
very, very low. So yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting. All right. Well, I think what's interesting is just how different kind of it feels. So it can be a little jarring to go back to it
yeah.
because it was so, all of the really early ones kind of feel very different than the kind of the feel of the last phase. I think
Yeah,
the
I think that's
ones.
definitely a problem in my, like for me because like I didn't watch it. I only got into the MCU around the time of Thor Ragnarok,
Uh-huh.
So I didn't watch it in order, and so watching like Thor Ragnarok, the Avengers, and like Ant-Man, and like all these kind of like light-hearted films, going back to the original Iron Man was a bit, as you say, a bit jarring. And like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting. All right. Well, then next we had the Incredible Hulk, and this is sort of the black sheep of the MCU. It feels very different in tone and feel of the rest, and some people like it because of that. And you have Edward Norton is as the Hulk. Of course, he would be replaced with Mark Ruffalo, and I think this movie is fine. I think it's a little bit boring, but I do like the final fight. I think it's pretty fun with Abomination and the Hulk. But I don't know, it's just kind of forgettable to me. It's not one that stay with me or that I really feel much of a desire to watch again. And so I don't think it's awful, but it is actually my number 19.
you're number 19. Okay. Yeah. For me, The Incredible Hulk, it's very weird because a lot of these films, I'm kind of like, even this is my number 22. This is my least favorite, but I still don't hate it because
Uh-uh.
like I think it does have good moments. But again, like I said with Iron Man, watching that, like not watching that first, I think that's the same with Edward Norton. If you watch Mark Ruffalo's Hulk first, Edward Norton's Hulk might seem a bit, even though you might not get the same effect. And I think that's one of the definite reasons for me. Because I didn't actually hate Edward Norton. I think he was quite good. But I think, again, another one with this is just the characters aren't as memorable, but I think the Hulk out scenes are actually pretty underrated. And I do think overall the action is okay. But there are some things that just, I don't know, like, I mean, especially I think, is it Tim Roth who plays the villain?
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene where he's in the field and he's sort of just like shouting at the Hulk. It's like, what would the Hulk wouldn't just stand there and watch that. So stuff like that is a bit annoying to watch. But other than that, I do think it's okay, even though it is my least favorite, my number 22.
Yeah. All right. And then we have Iron Man 2. And yeah, I mean this one it's not a successful movie, but it has interesting ideas. I think if they'd had longer to write the script, I think it would have been better. I think Don Cheadle was probably an upgrade for Rhodey over Terrence Howard. I think he just has a little bit better chemistry with Robert Downey Jr. And I like the kind of the idea of Tony as this sort of celebrity and how he kind of deals with being a superhero. And you get our introduction to Black Widow, and the whole scene at the racetrack is kind of fun at the end, I would say. But it just, you cannot have Tony being so unlikable for so much in the movie. It's just too much. And you really start to dislike Tony Stark, which is not a thing that we want to have happen. And
Yeah,
so I think that's what makes it not work as a movie. And it just feels, both of the villains feel a little bit underserved to me, with Sam Rockwell's character and Mickey Rourke's character. And so it's just not great. I have it at number 20.
yeah, I'm actually quite a defender of War Machine because a lot of people hate War Machine.
Uh-huh.
But I think I think he's actually really good in this. I think this is actually his best film. At
Uh-huh.
the end, when him and Tony are back to back, it's just a really cool moment. And I do think Whiplash is a good villain. Although, like, they do waste him, but I think overall he is okay. And the racetrack, as you said, was actually a pretty fun thing. But I do agree that Tony is too unlikable, and it doesn't really fit with his character in a way at all. I don't think so. I do agree that it kind of falls flat on that. But I think this movie definitely is an upgrade in terms of action. So I do have it at number 18, just one above the original Iron Man.
Mm. Yeah, I think that I didn't know that War Machine Rhodey. I didn't know that he was controversial. I really like. Do you prefer Don Cheadle
Oh
over?
yeah, I definitely prefer
Yeah,
Don Cheadle.
yeah.
Well, I mean, well, more about him being controversial. I hear a lot of people are here, like, well, more so in my friend groups and like my people who are close
Um,
to me. They all
they don't
really
like
don't
him,
really
huh?
like. No,
Interesting.
they all say that he's just like basically a second-rate Iron Man. But I don't think he is.
No.
I've always thought that he brings a lot more to a lot to the table,
Yeah, no, I really
especially
like it. Yeah.
especially in the Russo films.
Yeah.
The Russos really done well with him, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree for sure. All right, then we have Thor. I really like a lot of things about this movie. I like the introduction of Asgard. I like Odin, Anthony Hopkins. I like, of course, Loki and Thor a lot. And I think that Chris Hemsworth is so charming and so great. And I love him doing the whole fish out of water kind of thing. He's so funny, and I think that Kat Dennings can be a little much in the movie, and I'm not that big a fan of Jane Foster. I think that her and the Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth don't have very good chemistry, so that holds the movie back a little bit. But I still enjoy it. I have it at number 12.
Yeah. So the first Thor for me, I do agree with most points you've said there. And there are some just really cool moments, and I love Chris Hemsworth's introduction to this character. And I like Loki in this film because I like it when Loki is being a villain because the banter with Thor is just really incredible, and the part with the Destroyer was really interesting, and just in general, I think it is good. The only thing I would say that I kind of dislike is that the people on Earth, other than, I mean, I don't hate Jane Foster, but I don't really like Stellan Skarsgård's character that much, or Darcy or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think overall it's an okay film, and it is actually my favorite of the original introduction movies. So I have it at number 17.
Okay. Yeah. I guess it is actually my favorite as well of the original introduction origin movies. So yeah, I agree with you there. All right. Well, next we have Captain America: The First Avenger. And I think especially the first half of this movie is really strong as we're creating Captain America and sort of his decisions and his relationship with Bucky, his relationship with Peggy Carter, all of that all works really well. I think it's shot very well as far as just that old school look to everything. I think works really well. Joe Johnson does a good job kind of giving that feel. But then I think the second hour just doesn't work as well. And I think it drags a lot. I don't think that they use the Red Skull particularly well, despite a good performance by Hugo Weaving. So I have it at 17.
I do. There are some really good character moments in the first half before he actually becomes when he's just Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
There are some really good character moments. The part where he jumps on the grenade in training is one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
It's just it just shows that a lot of people say that like he's only like this because of the serum, but I think moments like that prove that he isn't. He's always been that protective and that loving and with that sacrificial.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, the action. I think the one thing that the other two Captain America films do, and like a lot of just other Captain Americas like moments do better, is hand to hand combat, and I don't think this film really has amazing hand to hand combat, which is its main downfall for me.
Yeah.
And I think overall though it is okay, but I do agree that the Red Skull was very underutilized. And that is at number 21.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, then we had the Avengers, and this was
Yes.
such a fun movie, in my opinion. Just seeing them all gather
Yeah.
together, and I think them having a reason to kind of coalesce and to fight after Coulson's death, I think makes sense and it works. And I think that Loki is the best in this movie. He's so good. And it just, I don't know, I just love it. I think Joss Whedon's banter is so fun. And I think the action is really fun. I just love
Yeah.
it. And I have it at number 2. It's
Yeah.
so good.
The Avengers is pretty incredible, to be honest.
Yeah.
It just sort of like, because especially when I was watching through phase one, as you can see by like my placements on the ranking, when I was watching through, I was sort of like not that interested. But then as soon as I watched Avengers, I was just blown away, and I
Yeah.
understood instantly why this was such a popular universe, because it's just incredible. The action is incredible. The way that they so perfectly managed to give everyone a character moment is incredible.
Yeah.
And just in general, the chemistry between these 6 heroes was just something that had never been done so perfectly. Even characters like Nick Fury and Maria Hill, they have small roles, but their roles are important still, which is
Yeah.
something that they just managed to just crack really well. And Loki is also one of easily my top 3 MCU villains in this film. He's just incredible.
He's so
And
good.
I have the Avengers at number 4.
Yeah. It's really, really good. And I had sworn off of superhero movies at that point when it came out. I was just like, these are terrible. And I particularly didn't like Green Lantern. It was
Yeah.
just so bad. So I didn't see it in the theater. And my friends were like, you gotta see it, you'll love it. And so I I put it off until it came out on DVD, and I watched it and loved it. And so I was back on board.
Yeah, it's
So,
just incredible.
yeah. All right. Next, we had Iron Man 3. And I just have a lot of issues with this movie. I'm not a huge Shane Black fan. I know a lot of people love him, but I I think that he was just very self-indulgent in this film. I think that especially the whole Mandarin twist, I think, was very poorly done. You have like an interesting, somewhat villain, an interesting character, and you swap him out for another man in a suit. Like what? It was really dumb, and I think that there's some interesting stuff with Tony dealing with his sort of mental health issues. I think works, and I think it's actually a really good performance from Robert Downey Jr. with him and this kid. But I don't know. I just find it frustrating to watch. So it's one of my least favorite personally, and I have it at 21.
Okay. Yeah. Controversially, this is actually my favorite of the Iron Mans. Because of that, the way Tony Stark is used is really, really incredible. And it makes sense if he'd have just, he's been to space, he's seen everything out there, and then to just come back and just be his same self would not have made sense. So I think they did really well showing that PTSD. And then I think the kid was sometimes a little bit annoying, but he wasn't
Yeah.
like unlikable. So I think that's why he worked. The reason I love this film so much is just that the scene where they're falling out the plane and he gets everyone to lock hands is just incredible. And I also really love the ending where all the Iron Man suits come into play and he's flipping from suit to suit. It's just handled really well. And then even Pepper Potts gets a moment. So it's just a really, I think, a fun movie. And it is very Shane Black, but I think it kind of works. But I do also dislike the Mandarin twist. But I have it at number 16.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. It's just it's a frustrating movie. I think it had a lot more potential, but they were trying to be too cute. They were trying to be kind of too showy, and it's frustrating. So, next we have Thor: The Dark World, and I don't think this movie really is successful, but it has a lot of interesting, fun set pieces and stuff that I do like, particularly anything in it with Loki and Thor. And I think the emotion with Frigga, and their mother. I think that really works. And I mean, I don't know, just Loki and Thor are so great in this, but Jane Foster's the worst in it, and the villain Malgant is so bland and so boring, and uh, so I don't know. It's just not that interesting. I do think the final fight at the end is kind of fun in between the different dimensions and stuff. It works pretty well, but it's number 18 for me.
Yeah. I think Thor is. I mean, this is widely regarded as like the worst MCU film, but there's enough Thor and Loki moments for me to not have it as my least favorite. But yeah, I do agree. They give too much of a role to Jane Foster, who like I've never really been a fan of.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm one of those people who believes that a superhero movie is only as good as its villain.
Yeah.
Because I need to care, if this villain's going to really do anything. But Malekith, and even though he wasn't like completely, it's not like he wasn't powerful. He just wasn't a good villain. He wasn't a
He's just
likable villain.
bland. He's so
Yeah,
bland.
and it's really sad. But there were some good moments. The Thor and Loki moment when, you think Loki's betrayed Thor was actually handled really well, I thought. And I do agree that the Frigga death, because the Frigga death that was also picked up in Endgame as well was like
Right.
made that moment a lot better as well.
Agreed. Yeah, who would know that Thor: The Dark World would become so important in Avengers Endgame? It was pretty funny. Yeah. So where did you have it?
I had it at number 20.
Okay, good. All right. Next, we had Captain America: Winter Soldier. I think this is such a great job by the Russos of making their Captain America movie a political thriller, basically. I think it's really fun. I really like Black Widow in it. I really like, Robert Redford as kind of our villain, but also the relationship between Bucky and Steve in this is really good and works really well. I think the fake out with Fury's death is a little bit not the best, not my favorite, but other than that, the action's really great, especially the one-on-one fight scenes are really well done, and I just really enjoy it. So I have it at number 3.
Yeah, the hand-to-hand combat that I was talking about earlier that I thought they missed in the first Avenger was definitely present here. The whole highway fight was like incredible. Bucky is one of my favorite characters because he's just been through so much, and I think the relationship between Captain and Bucky is incredible. Because I like how they don't just, they're not instantly friends again. It takes time and it takes, a lot of beatings, and then I think Falcon's good in the movie, and I also think Black Widow is also really good. But and I think the whole thing with finding out that Shield is Hydra was just a really good twist that I wasn't personally expecting. So I think they did really well with this film. It's always been one of my favorites, and I have it at number 2.
Yeah, 2014 was such a great year for superhero movies in general, and especially for the MCU. It was really good.
Where did you have the Winter Soldier in your ranking? Sorry,
number 3.
Number 3. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So then we have Guardians of the Galaxy, and when this first came out, I was super high on it. It got a little bit lower to me because I wasn't a fan of the second one. I don't know. They just kind of hurt it a little bit for me. Just some of these characters got a little irritating for me, but I still really enjoy it. I think the banter between them all. I like the idea of sort of this group of misfits kind of coming together and forming this sort of new team and family by the end of it. The way that it uses music is so great. One of the best soundtracks and uses of soundtracks ever, in my opinion. I think that, I don't know, all the characters are so charming and funny, and that's more than the story per se. The story is serviceable, but I think it's more them getting together and getting to know these characters, and I just really just think it has an infectious fun spirit about it, and so I have it at number 7.
Yeah, one of my personal favorite character in the entire MCU is Rocket Raccoon, and the fact that he gets so much in this film, and that's something they do really well, is they give everyone like great moments. And I had an urge to watch it last night, so I watched it again, and it just really is fun. There's never a dull moment. Like usually when films like move around location a lot, it can get a bit grating. But I think this one handles it really well. All the locations feel fleshed out and real. In general, I think it's really good. There is a little bit of like hard exposition in the middle with all the Infinity Stones, but I think it works because obviously, we hadn't really known much about the Infinity Stones back then. And the introduction, the first proper introduction of Thanos was actually really interesting. But I think Ronan is a bit bland. I think he seems a lot better than he is. And I do sometimes still have a few problems with the fact with the dance battle at the end.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But overall, I do really enjoy it, and the action is really good. And like you say, not just the soundtrack as well, like the actual score that they use is actually really good as well.
yeah. That's
So
true.
I have it at number 5.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay. Then we have Avengers Age of Ultron. So this movie, I think, has a lot of fun stuff about it. I really like the going into the backstory of each of our characters. I think we learn a lot, particularly about Natasha. I think that is really moving, and I think getting to see sort of the darkest fears of Tony, of Cap, of that it helps. I think that Tony is so dumb is a little bit hard after he's such a smart character in the first 3 movies, but him making Ultron and then making Vision, and not only just him but Bruce as well, just being so dumb, because it's a little frustrating to watch. And I think that they could have used like Quicksilver a little bit better, but I like the introduction of Scarlet Witch. She's really good, and I think that it's a big, epic battle, kind of movie, and it has some fun moments with that, but it's not as successful as the first Avengers, that's for sure.
Mm,
But and I do like Ultron, and I like Vision, and I especially like that moment between the two of them at the end. I think really works, but I think they could have used it even better. But it's an okay movie. I don't hate it, but I mean I loved it when it first came out, but it's definitely not as good as the first Avengers. But
yeah.
anyway, I have it 16.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason why this movie doesn't feel as good as the first Avengers is because, well, the first Avengers was like interesting to see all the people meet for the first time. This film didn't really seem to like build on their relationships like as much as I thought it would have.
Mm-hmm.
So they still didn't feel like real friends. But the action I think was really cool. The floating city was kind of cool. And yeah, I do agree that Ultron is really. So there are a few people that like to give Ultron hate, but I do think he's pretty good. I think James Spader does do well in the role. But yeah, I do agree. The main problem is just they kind of seem to make Tony and Bruce dumb just for the story. And Hawkeye's family was a bit just yeah,
Yeah, too much time at that house.
yeah, a little bit too much. It wasn't it wasn't really that. It's not like a bad scene. It's just they kind of introduced the family and then didn't really give them anything to do. So it was like you know. But yeah, I think it overall the action is okay. Though in the Hulk Buster versus Hulk fight is actually
Yeah, that's true.
pretty incredible. So pretty incredible, not to make a pun. Um, so yeah, I have it at number 13 in my
Okay.
ranking.
Okay. Yeah, I have it 16. All right. Next, we have Ant-Man. I really enjoy Ant-Man. I think it's really a fun little heist movie. I love Paul Rudd so much. I think that Evangeline Lilly is kind of flat as Hope. I think that she improves a lot in the sequel, personally. But I don't know. Other than that, I just think it's a really tight, fun little movie. I really like I don't know, just little details like the scene on the railroad track at the end is fun. And what I think that while not the greatest villain, I just like I guess I like Corey Stoll as an actor a lot. I think he's super charming. So I give it his Yellow Jacket a lot more credit than maybe other people do, just because I think he's such a fun actor. But anyway, I really like Ant-Man, and I have it at number 9.
Yeah, the first Ant-Man is just really good. I think it has some of the best pacing out of all the MCU. It never feels like you never get bored of a certain moment or anything like that. I think it's really interesting, and I think to make a film about ants was and do it well was actually like really incredible.
Yeah, about Ant-Man. I mean, if you told me would like an Ant-Man movie back in
Yeah,
the day, that would be something else. I wouldn't have believed
yeah,
you. But they're so
no, yeah,
funny. and I just really enjoy it. So
I think, yeah, it's really funny. Michael Pena is incredible.
yeah.
And I also think the relationship between Scott and Cassie is also really admirable as well. They
Oh
do.
yeah.
She's a very good actress, the little girl.
So where do you have it ranked?
Oh, I have it number 12. But yeah, I also think Michael Douglas is really incredible too.
Yeah, yeah. All right, then we had Captain America: Civil War, and I really like this movie. I think that it really builds up the tension and relationship between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers really well. You really see where each of them is coming from. That Tony wants that protection. He wants to give up some of his agency for the greater good, whereas Steve has just seen Hydra get infiltrated into S.H.I.E.L.D. So the last thing he wants to do is give up his agency to some governing body. And so their perspectives and their ideas make sense, and their conflict makes sense. And I think all building up to the airport scene, which is a lot of fun in my opinion. I just really enjoy it, and I think that Zemo, he's not the greatest villain as far as, I mean, his plan would have to be just perfect in order to work, but I think he has an interesting idea, and I don't even think he needed Zemo. I think you could take him out of the movie and it would have been just as good. But he's serviceable, I guess, and I just really think it's the dynamic between Captain America and Iron Man that works so well in this. And so I have it number 6.
I think, like what you said, the fact that they managed to build both sides of the argument so perfectly to the point where you've literally got fan debates was just really well. And like you said, like both Tony and Cap had reasons to be where they were, and I think
Yeah.
that's just really used well. I think the introductions of Black Panther and Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
were just used really well. Ant-Man as well. Ant-Man was used perfectly, I think, and yeah, I think it's used very well because obviously it's one of the most important films in the whole MCU because it sets up so much. And yeah, it's just really interesting because and the airport fight is very, very good, obviously, but that final fight is just so, so, so intense, and so
Yeah.
just the way that they both Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. just perfectly act in that final scene, and it's really incredible. And yeah, I have it at number 6 as well.
Very good.
So
Okay. Then we have Doctor Strange. And I like Doctor Strange a lot. I think that particularly sort of the journey of his character, like I know a lot of people say he's Iron Man light, but in my opinion, he gets humbled, I think, a little bit more than Tony ever really does in the first Iron Man movie. And I think the whole exploration into the magic world, the cosmic world of the MCU is really fun. I like the Ancient One. I think, and his relationship with her really works. I think the villain doesn't really work very well, isn't the greatest, although I do love the Dormammu scene. It's so fun. So I enjoy it. I like the visual effects are incredible, and I have it at number 10.
yeah, the visual effects are really interesting, and the way they use the magic is like they don't use it as like, oh, he can do anything, but like whatever he does with the magic, it never seems like over the top, which is really good. The only reason I would have it a little bit lower is just because it feels a little bit too self-contained to fully, be one of the better MCU films. But I do think the action is really interesting. That whole middle fight in the New York Sanctum is really interesting. But yeah, the villain is a bit bland, and I think other than the Ancient One and Doctor Strange, I don't think there's many other good characters. They wasted Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, that's
So
totally true.
it's good, but it's a little bit too safe in my opinion. So I have it at number 15.
Okay, interesting. All right. Then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Yeah, so this was a big disappointment for me. Yeah, it was the first one that I ever really kind of truly disliked that I saw in the theater. I just felt very frustrated with the structure of the movie. I felt like it has basically 3 kind of sets of villains, and I felt like some of the writing didn't really make sense to me, as far as particularly this sort of mutiny on the ship against Yandu. I didn't really understand what their problem was and why they were behaving this way. And I just felt like the biggest mistake of the movie was them dividing up the group that had just been assembled and that worked so well as a group, that they took characters that I liked and made them annoying to me, and particularly Drax and his just continual, just the same joke over and over and over and over again, making fun of Mantis, and that was just very old to me very quickly. And I just didn't really love Ego. I thought that especially things like the David Hasselhoff joke was just so out of place. And I don't know. I felt like things that were really special about the first one, like the music, felt kind of too on the nose here, too, like they were, as opposed to just being like this fun little bonus. It felt like everybody was so self-aware of it that it wasn't as fun. Like when you have in the middle of the opening fight, them kind of worrying about what music is playing, like that's not as fun as this sort of little thing that's in the background that, oh, that was really cool. And I don't know, it just all felt very on the nose. And I just don't think it's a very well structured, very well done movie. I think it has some nice emotion at moments, but I don't think it works. And so it's my least favorite. I have it at 22.
Yeah. It used to be one of my favorites. I remember when I first watched it, I really enjoyed it. But like on rewatches, it has definitely gone down quite significantly. It was originally like number 3 for me, and it's now number 11. Um, and like, yeah, that's just because I think it still has enough fun action, but there are just some things that they do which kind of get on my nerves. Like Ego, as much as I used to really love Ego, but like on rewatches, you kind of just realize how much he is just there to give exposition.
Yeah.
Um, and then also the fact that they gave Star-Lord this really cool power and then just kind of like took it off him straight away, it wasn't really that good. The stuff between Gamora and Nebula just wasn't that interesting. And as much as I love Mantis in the MCU, I don't think in this film she really does enough to really like cement herself as a character. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do agree. Drax isn't as good in this film. But Baby Groot is cool, and I think Yondu is really good in this film. Yeah, they do set up way too many things. I think it's like the group with Sylvester Stallone and all that.
Oh yeah.
They try and set up way too much, and it kind of is too hard to take in. So that's why I have it at number 11.
Yeah. All right. Then we had Spider-Man Homecoming. And yeah, this one's really fun. I really like this version of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I think that the idea of him being sort of the protege of Iron Man is fun. For the most part, I think it really works. I think the whole idea of it sort of being a high school movie, a coming of age story, it for the most part works. I think that they could have him being Spider-Man more, swinging through the city. I kind of missed some of that you get in the other Spider-Man movies. And I do think the Vulture's pretty fun. I think he was people saying he's better than Loki was a little much for me. But once I got kind of away from the hype, I did enjoy it, particularly that scene in the car was really fun. And I think it's just overall a real enjoyable movie. I guess I didn't love it as much as some people, but I think it does a good job. I think that some of the things like him having an Iron Man like suit and some of the other stuff maybe is a little much. And I think that the MJ and the other girl weren't the greatest, but it's a fun movie. I have it at 11.
Yeah, I do think that they do well to kind of just build on Spider-Man from Civil War. It really does feel like a good continuation. I like what they did with Aunt May. Not doing like the elderly Aunt Mays like they've done in the other two. And I
Uh-huh.
like that they didn't have to show like Uncle Ben's death or anything again. I think they just handled it all quite well. And yeah, I do think the action is really good, but I do agree that I wish he was just like like OG Spider-Man a bit more, like webbing people up, swinging around them and things like that. Because he was using his Stark suit a bit too much. I didn't mind the Stark suit, but I don't really need to see another superhero just using like loads of like gadgets that are there for just to kill one enemy and then never get used again. So things like that were a bit annoying, and I do agree that the Zendaya character and the Laura Harrier character were a bit just not really interesting. But his relationship with Ned was really good, and I do think they used Tony Stark very well in this movie. They could have easily Robert Downey Jr. could have easily taken over this movie, but he didn't. So that was pretty good. But overall, I do have it at number 14.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. Then we had Thor Ragnarok, and this is, I think, such an entertaining movie. I absolutely love all the interactions between Thor and Hulk. I think that it's such a funny script. I like all the side characters. I love Korg. He's the best. I think that Kate Blanchett has a lot of fun as Hela, as the villain, over the top. But I don't know, it's just such an entertaining, joyful, funny, rewatchable movie. I love all the style of it. I love all the action. The only thing I guess I don't really like is that giant wolf isn't my favorite. I think it looks really cheesy. But other than that, I just love it. I have it at number 4.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, it's very weird 'cause what we were saying about Iron Man 3, how that feels like a Shane Black film, which doesn't work. Thor Ragnarok feels like a Taika Waititi film, but it does work.
Yeah.
And his style just translates so well with Chris Hemsworth comedy. I'm glad they finally got to give Chris Hemsworth like a chance to be the comedian that he is.
Yeah.
The stuff with Loki felt very good.
Oh,
The stuff with Hulk felt very good.
that scene when they're like in the elevator, him and Loki, is the best. It's so
It's
good.
incredible.
Oh,
And Valkyrie was also a very interesting
yeah.
character. Um, and I think they just did a lot of good things in this film. It's hard to really watch it and dislike it because it's just so light-hearted and so interesting. The only one main gripe I have with the film is Odin's death, and not necessarily the death itself, but it looks very, very fake. It's very obvious that they're on a green screen. That part does kind of get on my nerves, but I think it is really interesting, and they do a lot of good, just great things in this film. So that's why I have it at number 7.
Okay, good. Yeah, you save it pretty high. All right, then we had Black Panther. So of course our Oscar nominated film. But I think I was fine with it getting nominated because I really enjoyed it as a movie. It wasn't my favorite movie, but it was fine with me that it got nominated. And I think the whole dynamic between T'Challa and Killmonger is really good, and you really get to see his perspective because he is right in a lot of ways, and he does impact T'Challa in the end. And I think all the side characters are the best in this. I think the whole building up of Wakanda is really great. The mythology, the lore, they managed to do it without being boring. I think that the movie, when T'Challa is, people think he's dead, like section of the movie in the middle, drags a little bit for me as far as that. But I still really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people have complaints about the action in the final act. I don't really care about that. That doesn't matter to me. And so I have it at number 8.
Yeah, I actually do think this film is just a tad bit overrated. I think it's still really good, but people saying it was like the best MCU film. I don't think it is. But I do think that the characters all around are really good. I really like Nakia. I love Okoye. I love Shuri. Shuri
Yeah.
is the best, and Killmonger is one of the most incredible villains ever. And they really do well at building the relationships between characters. Um, the only character I really wasn't that much of a fan of was the Daniel Kaluuya character. Because he was very just like, he was on their side, then he was on T'Challa's side, then he was on Killmonger's side, and they just kept throwing him away too much. And the rhinos were a bit CGI. Other than that, I think the action's really incredible. The hand-to-hand combat is really good, and the South Korea action scene is just incredible. I really like it, and I love Ulysses Claw in this. Andy Serkis just does an amazing job portraying that character as like really over the top. And that's why I have Black Panther at number 10.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we're pretty close on that. All right, then we had Avengers Infinity War. And of course, I appreciate this more now after seeing Endgame, because you get to see how it all ended, for real. And this is just the first part of our epic ending. But I think they do a great job with Thanos in this, explaining his point of view and where he's coming from. I think that it has some really amazing moments, particularly with Thor coming down, with his hammer and Wakanda. That works so well. And I also liked a bunch of the little sort of buddy moments, the pairings that they did. I liked Tony and Doctor Strange, I think worked really well. I think that Thor and Star-Lord worked really well. So I think that's the strength of the movie. For me, I felt like the pacing was a little not the best, and that I think that some of the action felt kind of repetitive to me. And I personally just still don't think the ending really works, because since I know it's all very temporary, to me it falls flat and you don't get the emotional payoff. And again, it's not the true ending, so I'm fine with it. But I don't know, it just all kind of feels flat to me, because it's just so obviously not real. And I don't know, that's what it didn't work for me in that way that it did for a lot of other people. But I have it at 13, so I definitely raised up in the rankings because of Endgame being so good.
Yeah, I think it's just the scale of Infinity War is just massive, and I do think they managed to match it quite well. I agree with you that the sub teams are just really good. I think the main battles of the Wakanda battle and the Titan battle are really good, but yeah, like you say, it's very obvious when you're watching it that the ending isn't. Well, it's not the ending. I think it is paced a bit weirdly. Like, for example, like you see,
Yeah.
like Doctor Strange and that whole set piece is set up in like the first 10 minutes, where like Doctor Strange is abducted, and then you don't come back to that till like an hour into the film. So it's like, oh yeah, I forgot this was here. And sometimes yeah, the timings are a bit off, but I can't deny how excited I was watching the film. So it isn't my number. It's my third favorite film because the action is just so interesting and so massive, and I think they just accomplished so much with this film.
Yeah. So where do you have it?
Number 3.
Okay. All right. Then we had Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I think this is a pretty entertaining little movie. It was a nice break after Infinity War. I think that Evangeline Lilly is way better in this movie than she is in the first one, which is good because she's more of a lead character. And I think that the Ghost is actually pretty decent villain. I think that she has some good motivation, but I think it feels just a little forgettable. It's just not, to me, it's not as good as the first one, and a lot of people like it better than the first one. I just don't agree. I don't think it's as tight as far as the script, and I wanted more of my team of misfits. A little bit more Michael Pena would have been fun, but overall I still like it. I have it at 14.
Yeah, I am one of those people who likes it more just for the Wasp. I think the Wasp is just such an incredible character, and I like that they're not like straight away just happy with Scott. Michael Douglas still hates Scott Lang pretty much throughout the whole film, and I'm glad that they did give Michael Douglas the glory of getting Michelle Pfeiffer back. I think that was really good to do. The action is very good, but I think that they showed a lot of it off in the trailers, which was a bit disappointing. But things like the huge Pez dispenser was really cool. And just in general, the way they go from the visual effects will always be very good for these films. And yeah, Ghost is really interesting because she's not really a villain, but she does still pose a threat, I think. So it's really interesting, and I do think that the acting throughout is actually really good. So I do I have it at number 9.
Okay, good. All right. Then Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel, I really enjoyed all of sort of the buddy moments between her and Nick Fury. Nick Fury is so fun in the movie. I liked, everything with Goose was really fun. I really enjoyed that. Overall, I thought it was fun as far as the action. I thought I liked the sort of the back and forth between her and Jude Law was pretty good. I liked the sort of the surprise twist of the scrolls. I think worked pretty well. So there were a lot of things I did like. I think similar to Ultron to me, it gets in this sort of second act, it gets kind of stuck at that house and gets a little bit boring for me. And I think some of the it had some weird parts, like I don't really understand the Supreme one, I guess. The Annette Bening character I thought was used weirdly, and I think they could have had more action. I liked that on the train, but there wasn't much else beyond that. But overall, I still liked it well enough. I have it at 15.
Yeah, I actually really liked Captain Marvel too. I don't understand why people hated Brie Larson so much. I think she was
Yeah.
actually really good in the role. And the action was good. Sometimes it's a bit hard because of how strong she actually is. But the train fight was really good, I thought. And yeah, this is actually my favorite Nick Fury film. I
Yeah.
think he's so good in this film. I'm glad they gave Samuel L. Jackson like a chance to really be a more comedic Nick Fury. Yeah, I do really like the villain, the Jude Law villain. Actually, I wasn't actually expecting him to like have been,
Because
the
he's not
villain.
like a true villain.
Yeah, and at the end when he said when he calls back to the first scene saying like fight me without your power, and she just like punches him straight across the desert. Like it's pretty funny. They do. There is actually like a lot of funny moments, and yeah, I do agree. Goose is actually really funny. The only kind of grope I had was the Tesseract, and I don't really think it was necessary because then it kind of messed up the timeline a bit in my opinion. But overall, I did really enjoy the film, and yeah, I also really like the scrolls as well. So I have it at number 8.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I don't know. I liked some of the 90s things, and I have to kind of think about it as far as where it puts the Tesseract and everything like that, especially with Endgame. But anyway, it that's always less important to me. I know a lot of people it's really important, but the continuity is less important to me than the fact that it's just fun movies. But yeah, I don't know. I still have to kind of put the pieces together, really. But then we have Avengers Endgame. It's really hard because you've got your recency bias, and you know, so who knows? Maybe in a year I will have it a little bit lower, but I've seen it 3 times. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was an incredible ending to these 22 movies. I thought it was moving. I thought it was exciting. I thought it had everything that I could want. I was really happy with the ending for all the characters. I love the time travel element, but I love time travel in stories. I love Doctor Who. I love Back to the Future. I love and they were really clever about how they applied the time travel because they talk about him creating this whole another reality, that they're not going back and changing the past. What they're doing is just getting the stone so that they can make a new future. They were just really careful about everything, all the choices that they made. So aside from Loki was really the only question that I had, like where did Loki go? And I guess we're going to find out about that in his series. But other than that, I felt they tied everything up really well, and I was a big fan actually of Chubby Thor, and a lot of people didn't like it. I liked it because he's always been a character that responds to hard things by being sort of the butt of the joke. And to me, it made total sense that he killed Thanos finally, but he was a failure. He was a complete failure. Loki died, and then the rest of the people are vanished. He's supposed to be this leader, and he failed. And so him becoming this alcoholic, uh, to me made sense. And I thought it was actually really moving when he has that conversation with Frigga. And I liked the fact that he didn't change. Like, he still was, like, if he'd had some makeover moment, for lack of a better word, where all of a sudden he was buff again, I think that wouldn't have been as good as the fact that he was still worthy
Mm.
to yield the hammer. I thought was really cool. And I really liked it. And that ending with him becoming one of the Guardians basically is amazing. And I'm so excited now for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, where I wasn't as excited because I wasn't a big fan of 2. And I thought it was the perfect ending for Tony Stark, especially. I just thought it worked so well. I even liked, a lot of people didn't like the girl power moment. I thought it was fun. I thought it was harmless and just, a fun action moment. I thought everybody had their moment, and when everybody comes out of the sky uh in to have that final battle, I just about died. It was so exciting, and
Mm.
I just love it. I think it's amazing. And the fact that, Captain America got to spend his life with Peggy in the end was the best. And I mean, basically, they're gonna have to find some place where they're never gonna come into contact with the other version of themselves for it to work as far as plot holes and stuff. But I don't care about that. It was fine for me, and I just really enjoyed it. And I have it at number 1 right now. We'll see if it stays there. But right now, I just thought it was an incredible experience, an incredible moment at the theater, and I just love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's just so incredible. It was the first film I've ever seen like on opening night, midnight showing. So it was just really exciting for me. I finally got my first instance of an audience cheering when Cap picked up Mjolnir. My theater
Oh
started.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
amazing.
I turned to my friend as that part was happening, and I was like, it just hit me that was going to happen. And yeah, my cinema actually clapped, and I've never been more excited for anything than when that final battle was setting up. I think Professor Hulk was amazing, and they just did so much right, because it feels like 2 films in one, but like 2
Yeah.
very good films in one. And I think Ant-Man was perfect. I actually really liked
Oh
Hawkeye.
yeah. Well,
Um,
and a lot of people weren't as crazy about the sacrifice of Black Widow, but I really like it. I mean, I think it's cool that the in the end everybody is saved by the sacrifice of somebody with no superpowers. I think that's really cool, and
yeah,
it worked for me. I thought it was moving, and I think that it wouldn't have been as good if it had been Hawkeye, because he would have been doing it for his family, whereas for Black Widow, she did it for the love of her Avengers family, and in particular, but also for everybody. But I just think she had more noble intentions, and I thought it really worked. I loved it, and I I don't know. I just thought it was such a great experience and such a great movie.
yeah. It
So
was just the cameos as well. Like we've already spoken about
yeah.
Frigga, but then also Robert Redford. I was not expecting that.
Oh yeah.
The Ancient One was
Oh
awesome. It was just, because people have always said that, like, oh, where was Doctor Strange during the Avengers? And like they answered that, and like we did see the Ancient One actually protecting the Sanctum. So it was really interesting. And when that scene when they first time travel back to New York, and Professor Hulk sees, the original Hulk, and he's wearing his shirt and he has to rip it off and pretend to be like old Hulk, was just really good.
yeah. Yeah. It
It
was
was
so
just
good.
the comedy was just incredible. And once again, sort of like Infinity War, just the subunits that they put the characters into was just really fun.
Yeah.
um Even War Machine and Nebula, which was like a really random pairing, was just still really fun. And yeah, I think the film was just incredible. And like I say, when the music is swelling up and everyone's coming out the portals, it's just the excitement. It's just incredible. Yeah, I do think Thanos is a little bit worse in this film. I think he's a bit more monologue-y. but it wasn't his film anymore. It was back to the Avengers because Infinity War was Thanos' film, whereas this one was the Avengers taking it back, and so I think they were just perfect. The use of Thanos. The two Nebulas confused me was a bit like I kind of wish in that last moment when Nebula shot Nebula that also killed Nebula, because I think that would have been a really interesting way to go out. But yeah, and the women part, it didn't feel forced either. It felt like those were just the women, especially Pepper Potts in the rescue suit was just incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, they gave everyone just such incredible moments. Like Ant-Man punching that giant worm thingy. And then when Captain Marvel came in, it was just incredible.
They used her so well, I think, Captain
Yeah,
Marvel. They
it's
didn't overuse
incredible.
her.
And I like how, like, even though she's really important and really powerful, she's still, like, not, like, 100%, like, indestructible. Like, Thanos does manage to knock her. When he throws his knife at the quantum tunnel and it blows everything up, it's just incredible. And yeah, the final sacrifice was just amazing. It was so good. And yeah, I think overall it'll just be very hard to ever top the excitement in a battle ever again, because that final battle was just so packed with like everything good.
Yeah. So where did you have it in your ranking?
Number 1.
Ah, all right. Very good. Okay. Well, let's read over our list since we kind of had it all over the place as we did chronological. So I have Avengers Endgame at number 1. I have Avengers at 2. I have Captain America Winter Soldier at 3. I have Thor Ragnarok at 4. Iron Man at 5. Captain America Civil War at 6. Guardians of the Galaxy at 7. Black Panther at 8. Ant-Man at 9. Doctor Strange at 10. Spider-Man Homecoming at 11, Thor at 12, Avengers Infinity War at 13, Ant-Man and the Wasp at 14, Captain Marvel at 15, Avengers Age of Ultron at 16, Captain America the First Avenger at 17, Thor The Dark World at 18, The Incredible Hulk at 19, Iron Man 2 at 20, Iron Man 3 at 21, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 at 22.
Yep, I have Avengers Endgame at number 1, Captain America the Winter Soldier at number 2, Avengers Infinity War at number 3, the original Avengers at number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy at number 5, Captain America Civil War at 6, Thor Ragnarok at 7, Captain Marvel at 8, Ant-Man and the Wasp at number 9, Black Panther at 10, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 at 11, Ant-Man at 12, Age of Ultron at 13, Spider-Man Homecoming at 14, Doctor Strange at 15, Iron Man 3 at 16, Thor at 17, Iron Man 2 at 18, the original Iron Man at 19, and then Thor The Dark World at 20, Captain America The First Avenger at 21, and The Incredible Hulk at 22.
Okay, great. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this with me. So it was definitely a lot of fun. And so, yeah, let us know if you're listening what your ranking is, where you would have the MCU, what you think of the MCU as a whole, maybe what phases are your favorites. Let us know in the comment section or on Twitter. Be a lot of fun. And so where can people find you, Reece, online?
I'm on Twitter at Reece's Reviews, and I'm also on YouTube at just my name, Reece Taylor, and those are the places that you can find me.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media and on iTunes and YouTube, so definitely check that out. And thanks so much again, and we will have to get together. Maybe we'll do another smaller video once Spider-Man Far From Home comes out and we get our true
definitely, or something for Toy Story 4 because we both love
Pixar. Yeah, that'll be really fun. So all right, well, thanks so much, and we will talk again soon.
Yep, bye.